As you caught the aroma of that food, did you notice the sudden change in your system? That was your brain already sending signals to the concerned body parts, telling them there is good stuff coming their way. At that point, your mouth is watery, your stomach tightens as it excretes digestive fluids, and you suddenly want to take a bite. The food is processed into substances that the body needs and in the form that they can be used by the body. A lot of people believe that processed food is bad for the body. Maybe they are. But do you know that all food is processed? Yes, they are processed by the body. If this is not done, there is no nutrient to be derived from it for our body's use. Do you know that once food hits your tongue, it is already being digested or processed? Let us find out how. The process of food digestion. There are 6 major phases that food passes through as it is processed by the human body. These steps are 1. Ingestion. 2. Swallowing. 3. Mechanical digestion. 4. Chemical digestion. 5. Food absorption. 6. Defecation. Ingestion. This is the first phase in the processing of food by the body. The food enters the mouth, is chewed, and taken into the esophagus. When food is chewed, it is broken down into smaller particles and decreases the surface area to volume ratio. This is to enable the digestive chemical to act on them thoroughly and to also make them absorbable when the digestive process ends. When the food is being chewed, it mixes with saliva and the digestion of carbohydrates starts at this stage. Motility or swallowing. This is the last voluntary action taken during the period that food is being processed in the body. Excretion of the waste materials after digestion and absorption is another voluntary action taken. The chewed food is pushed into the esophagus or gullet by the tongue and the muscles of the neck and pharynx. The food forms small balls called bolus and travels in a wave-like movement to the stomach. This is an involuntary process conducted by the smooth muscles of the alimentary canal. This movement ensures that swallowed food and even liquids can enter the stomach even if you are standing upside down. Mechanical digestion. This includes the chewing of food and the churning of food that occurs in the stomach. Apart from carbohydrates that starts digesting when it is mixed with the saliva, mechanical digestion does not digest the food. It just breaks the food down into smaller particles to expose enough surface for the digestive chemicals to act on. Also, segmentation occurs in the small intestine, which helps to further mix up and break down the food. Chemical digestion. In this phase of food processing by the body, digestive enzymes are produced by the body to break food components down from their complex structures into simpler forms. A lot of enzymes participate in this process and they are specific in their functions. The chemical digestion of carbohydrates. The processing of carbohydrates starts at mixes with the saliva of the mouth. An enzyme present in saliva known as amylase breaks it down into a disaccharide called maltose. There is no further chemical digestion that takes place in the stomach, and the digestive actions of amylase are stopped by the stomach acid juices. The next phase of the digestion of carbohydrates is in the duodenum, which is the upper part of the small intestine. It mixes with enzymes produced by the liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. The pancreatic secretions contain the amylase enzyme, which further breaks down the carbohydrates into maltose. The disaccharides produced from the breakdown of carbohydrates into disaccharides. These disaccharides are maltose, sucrose, and lactose. An enzyme known as maltase further breaks down the maltose into monosaccharides such as glucose. Sucrase enzyme disintegrates sucrose into fructose and glucose. Lactase disintegrates lactose into galactose and glucose. These monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, and galactose are transported into the circulatory system through the epithelial cells of the small intestines. The chemical digestion of proteins. The processing of proteins starts in the stomach when an enzyme known as pepsin begins to break down the proteins into peptides. Peptides are proteins that are made up of chains of 4 to 9 amino acids. The next phase of protein digestion occurs in the duodenum. The pancreas secretes enzymes known as carboxypeptidase, elastase, chymotrypsin, and trypsin. These enzymes work on the chyme and break them further into smaller peptides. These small peptides are broken down into single-chain amino acids by a group of enzymes known as peptidases. These peptidases are aminopeptidase, dipeptidase, and carboxypeptidase. The amino acids which are produced after the processing of proteins are absorbed from the walls of the small intestines into the circulatory system. The chemical digestion of fats. The digestion of fats starts in the stomach by the enzyme, lipase. The lingual and gastric lipase acts on the food in the stomach. When the chyme, semi-liquid food particles, enters the upper part of the small intestine, the pancreas secretes more lipase enzyme which further breaks down the fat globules into triglycerides. As this occurs, the liver is triggered by some hormones to produce bile that is stored by the gallbladder. The bile produced by the liver is used to break down fats into small globules in a process known as emulsification. The emulsification process distributes the fat globules into smaller globules so that the surface area of these fat globules can be increased. This makes it easier for the lipase enzyme to work on the fat globules and break them down into glycerides and fatty acids. The bile salts form tiny spheres known as micelles with monoglycerides and long-chain fatty acids and absorbed into the cells of the small intestines. These monoglycerides form 3 chains known as triglycerides and are covered by proteins. These lipoproteins enter the bloodstream and are deposited on fat cells all around the body. The chemical digestion of vitamins. The digestion of fat-soluble vitamins is like that of fats. The water-soluble vitamins are taken up into the circulatory system from the small intestines. Minerals are taken up into the blood in the stomach and small intestines. The digestion of nucleic acids. The food we eat also contains nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. The digestion of the nucleic acids starts in the stomach. The pancreas secretes enzymes known as a pancreatic nuclease, responsible for their breakdown. The 2 pancreatic nucleases produced by the pancreas are the ribonuclease that breaks down RNA and deoxyribonuclease which breaks down DNA to form nucleotides. The nucleotides are then further broken down by the enzymes, phosphatase and nucleosidase to form phosphates, nitrogenous bases, and pentose sugars. The digestive system. The digestive system is designed to transform food into nutrients which the body can use for its activities. The digestive system is made up of the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. Mouth. This is where the processing of food by the body starts in a process known as chewing. The teeth break down food into smaller particles and the saliva mixes with them to break them down further and make it easier for the processing to continue in the other parts of the digestive system. Pharynx. This is also known as the throat. It works with the muscles of the tongue to push chewed food into the esophagus. Esophagus. This is a tube joining the pharynx and the stomach. The chewed food goes down into the stomach by sequential contractions known as peristalsis. At the end of the esophagus and just before the stomach is a valve known as the lower esophageal sphincter. This valve shuts up the connection between the stomach and the esophagus and prevents food from flowing back into the esophagus and back to the mouth. Stomach. This is an organ that is like a sac and has a muscular wall. It holds, grinds, and mixes the food that enters it. It secretes acids and enzymes that digest food further after they have been chewed. When the food is leaving the stomach into the small intestine, it is in a semi-liquid state known as chyme. Small intestine. The small intestine is a long coiled tube that is up to 25 feet long. It is made up of 3 parts known as the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The processing of food continues in this section with the help of enzymes produced by the pancreas and the bile produced by the liver. Peristalsis also takes place in this organ and it helps in the grinding, mixing, and moving the chyme down to the next stop of the digestive process. The digestion of food happens mostly in the upper part of the small intestine known as the duodenum. It is actually the last point of the processing of most food particles. The other parts of the small intestines, ileum and jejunum, are responsible for absorbing the nutrients present in the digested food. There are 3 organs that assist the small intestines in their functions. They are the liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. The pancreas secretes enzymes that help to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats into the small intestine. The liver has numerous roles to play in the digestion, absorption, and the utilization of the nutrients from food. It also secretes enzymes and hormones that play vital roles in other activities of the body. In the processing of food by the small intestine, the liver secretes bile which emulsifies fat and aid in their digestion and absorption. It also cleanses the blood containing the nutrients absorbed from the small intestines before they enter the circulatory system. The gallbladder is a storage organ for the bile produced by the liver. The bile produced by the liver is taken to the gallbladder through the cystic duct and is released into the small intestine during the digestion of fats. The digested food is absorbed in the jejunum and ileum and the rest is pushed into the colon. Large intestine. This is a muscular tube that connects the small intestine to the anus. It is also known as the colon. The upper part of the large intestine is known as the cecum while the lower part is known as the rectum. In between the cecum and the rectum is the ascending colon which curves at the right side of the abdomen, the transverse colon which runs across to the left side, the descending colon which curves on the left side and the sigmoid colon which is S-shaped. The waste products of digestion move through the large intestine by peristalsis in the semi-liquid state. Water is absorbed from the waste products by the walls of the large intestines until it becomes solid. It takes waste products about 35 hours to pass through the colon. This solid stool is kept in the sigmoid colon until it accumulates into a large mass which gets emptied at once into the rectum. This takes place 1 to 2 times per day. The rectum connects the large intestine to the anus and holds waste products until it is eliminated through the anus. When the sigmoid colon empties solid or gaseous waste into the rectum, a signal is sent to the brain and it responds by giving the body an urge to poop. If the elimination is to be done, the sphincters of the rectum relax and release the contents. If not, it contracts and holds back the contents, and the urge to pass feces goes away. Anus. This is the last part of the digestive system and has 2 sphincters, the internal and external sphincters. It has sensitive walls that detect when contents enter the rectum. It also deciphers if it is a solid, liquid, or gaseous waste. The internal sphincter prevents the involuntary passing of stool when asleep while the external keep the stool from flowing out until we reach a place of convenience. If you found this video helpful, click the subscribe button below. Turn the notification on, so that you will know when we post a new video. Also, visit our site, www.zimfoodprocessors.com for more food processing content like this. Thank you.